Well, so nice to be back with you all this week. I just am returning from a wonderful retreat that I had in up there in northern Colorado, in Carbondale and the Aspen area. And so it's so good to be back at home. And when I was driving home from the retreat last Sunday night, there was a wonderful eclipse. And for any of you who are out and saw it, it was just breathtaking. I've spent a lot of my life, just looking up at the stars and the heavens, and it was just like the icing on the cake from such a profound retreat that we had. And so, a couple thank yous for the donations that have come in. Thanks to Tatiana and Butch and Patricia and Terrence, and there were a couple more that I think I missed, but anyways. Thank you all so much for supporting this work. If any of you are interested in making a donation, you can visit my website, craigholiday.com, and there's a donate link on the page. It's really helpful to have the support. One more announcement is in the next coming weeks on Wednesday nights, I'll be doing a meditation group on Zoom, and so probably put something out in the newsletter about that, but also check on the Facebook page and my website for details. You can also email me too. Let's see here. One of the things I have to say is, because I've been traveling so much, and I've just been getting more and more emails. So many of them are really long emails, and I just can't answer all the questions, so forgive me. And then, of course, if there's a question I missed, feel free just to send it again. That's helpful. One of the things I can say about some of the questions I get a lot of questions from people who find themselves in a state of spiritual crisis. And so if this is you, if you're going through a very powerful awakening process, and through the clearing of the energy, you find yourself really anxious, or your body is, changing temperatures, and you're having, if you're shaking and trembling, and there's, really intense symptoms, it's best if you meet with me one-on-one, or someone else one-on-one who can help you. These types of questions aren't, they're just not fully appropriate for me to give a quick email response. And because I'm so overwhelmed with emails, I just can't do it justice, what you're going through. And while I'd love to help and send you a long, detailed response, one, I don't have the time, and two, just ethically speaking, it'd be more appropriate if you met with me, or if you met with a good teacher or somatic counselor or body worker, maybe a team of support to help you through whatever it is you're going through. When I went through a spontaneous and quite unexpected massive Kundalini awakening, I had my teacher David, I was meeting with Adyashanti, I was probably meeting with 2 other Buddhist teachers, and then I also had a therapist, a body worker, a chiropractor, acupuncturist, many healer friends. And so I got lots of support with this very powerful, energetic awakening that was happening with me. I was talking to my good friend Suzanne this week, and we were talking about, she was basically asking, how much support should I get? How much, support should I be receiving? And basically I told Suzanne, I just went broke, visiting, teachers, going on retreats, and, seeing counselors and therapists. But, I'd rather, how should I say this politely, have no money and have a sane relationship with this very powerful awakening experience that I'm having than just to be lost in it. I had this just sense of trust that if I gave everything, to my healing, that eventually I would get better and it would work out in the end. And it absolutely did. For many of us, we go through an incredibly transformative process. So many of us go through the dark night of the soul. And, so I tell people, get more support. If you want to get back to work, you want to have a clear mind. And so for me, if I was struggling with anxiety or fear or panic or just having massive amounts of just energy moving through my body, I would go just show up at my teacher's house. Maybe the next day I might meet with a counselor or body work, to help soothe my body and to relax the body. And so, if I just sent, my other teacher, Adyashanti, an email and he didn't get back to me, I'm going to find some support. And of course, like so often, an email doesn't do it. It's good to have support on the path. And I know support can be expensive, but you must remember you are investing in yourself and your sanity and your healing and transformation. And please, no one take this as a sales pitch for working with me. I don't need to be busier than I am. I'm just saying, if you need support, get support. But emails aren't sufficient. Listening to sometimes a response, to like an online satsang, that could be helpful. But I demanded one-on-one attention. Each of us has a very unique spiritual path, and I can't tell you how grateful I am to my teachers, to my counselors, my friends, the body workers, and the healers that I worked with. And they saved my life. And sometimes I see people, they kind of spin out in like a dark night of the soul for years. The way I approached it is I said, okay, I'll go broke. I went into debt, but then I made it through the dark night much more quickly. By quickly, I mean, 3 to 5 years. It was only really, ridiculously intense for, probably 3 years, but then just pretty intense for 5 years. But, I just kept going forward, trusting in myself, trusting in the process, trusting in the experience of transformation. Now, some people have what I call a dual diagnosis. They may have, some people who are like really lost in their mind, they may have like some level of psychosis and be going through a dark night of the soul and be having a profound spiritual awakening. You wouldn't be the first person to have some crazy wild thoughts or panic attacks or just a really intense ride. And so always keep that in mind too, that there could be dual diagnosis stuff. You could have, something that you need the support of medication with. You could have, a legitimate sickness and be spiritually awakening. I think I have a really good friend who has chronic fatigue syndrome and Kundalini awakening. And so this is a tough place to be, to have Kundalini, which is extra amount of energy, and then chronic fatigue, which is like feeling totally exhausted, and adrenal fatigue. One doesn't always cause the other, but I was just noticing that just all these emails I've been getting recently, and people giving me long list of symptoms. If you're having flu-like symptoms, go to the doctor. Get some support. If you're having, symptoms that seem like menopause, maybe think of that. It could be menopause and Kundalini awakening. There's all kinds of things that can happen in this world. Being human and divine is a very confusing, complex thing. We kept speaking about this on retreat. There's a fellow on the retreat named Butch, and an old sailor, a great guy, and he was just having huge amounts of energy just pouring through his system. And then, most of the other people in the room were just sitting and opening to this grace and feeling this love and this light and this brilliance. And they were wondering, why is this guy over on the left? Why is he, jumping off his meditation cushion? And so, if we're having a big experience, sometimes the best thing to do is just to lay down, take deep, full breaths, kind of ride the wave, the energetic wave while it's really intense. And then eventually, meet with a teacher. And, don't just meet with a teacher once. Some teachers will say, oh, that's just Kundalini. They ignore it, deny it, it will go away. That's how they teach it about Kundalini in the Zen tradition. But in the yogic tradition and most other traditions, they're a little bit more sensitive. They might spend some time actually working with you, helping you to get to know your chakras and your subtle energetic body. I had a good friend that I was speaking with on retreat, and the experience that he has, often is just vast, spacious awareness, which is lovely if we're experiencing vast, spacious awareness. But what I was doing is I was guiding him, to pay attention to his other 6 chakra centers. Basically he was asking me, well, is that important? Like he said, do you mean those sensations I feel in my body? Aren't I supposed to just let those sensations come and go? And yeah, if it's just a sensation, you let it come and go. A little bit of heat, a little bit of light, whatever it is, a feeling of pain, releasing or unraveling. Yes, you let that come and go. But what most people don't understand is you have 7 energetic centers within the body. In each of those centers, you can realize the presence of God as your own self. You can realize something quite profound there. Often, I say this a lot, but often in the third eye, you'll feel vast, spacious emptiness. The heart, you may feel overwhelming love, compassion, and intimacy with all of life. In the belly, you can have this experience of indestructible presence. And so for me, because I teach a full path, full yogic path, a full path of true awakening, I want to know God everywhere throughout my being, not just as vast, spacious emptiness, but as light, as love, as peace. And so it's important for us to get to know our subtle energetic body. And just a great question for inquiry, this great question is, who am I? And oftentimes people ask that question, they just feel like spacious emptiness, which yes, that is it. That is one way of experiencing the question of who am I. But a different way is to feel into each chakra center. Who am I? What is my heart? What is my hara? What is this that I am? And I'm not looking for a philosophical answer. What I encourage you to look for is to feel the presence of the heart. What does your heart feel like? Does your heart feel heavy and human? Does it feel emotional? and like it's just like mulling over psychological pain? Or do you feel brilliance there? Are you experiencing unity consciousness in the space of your heart? If you feel this incredible intimacy and love for all of life, do you feel one with life in a physical way? More and more as you open to your subtle energetic body, you begin to feel as if there's 10,000 points of light within your being that are waking up, that are vibrating with light and love and bliss. Now, I will say this, going back to that kind of that first question I was responding to. Sometimes as our subtle energetic body is waking up, it first has to throw off or purify or let go or release a lot of pain, a lot of heaviness, a lot of old karma. It's one of the things that Kundalini energy does, is it starts to create this new channel through the body and throw off the aspects of our consciousness which are deeply egoic, which are lost in fear, which are confused or simply not awake. And the awakening process for some people is very light and gentle and smooth, but for other people, it's extremely physical and intense. And if it's physical and intense, it's good. It's good to have a teacher. It's good to have support. And I'm talking about a whole support team. If your body is shaking and trembling, you're having overwhelming experiences, you need more than an email response from a teacher. You need to have a relationship with a teacher who's been through this process. And you'll know if the teacher's been through the process, because the quality of her answer will resonate with your heart. If it's a teacher who denies your experience, that's not the teacher for you. You need someone who understands you, who sees you, who's been through what you've been through. I want you to imagine a teacher being like, an older brother or sister, like a best friend, a father or mother, a wise presence, someone who can see you fully, who can sit with you fully, who can hold your hand through the process if it's really intense, if it's really intense. And so, anyways, I was actually a little bit shocked at how many emails I had from people who were having ridiculously difficult awakening experiences. And so again, I'll just emphasize this. If you're having serious symptoms in your body, and this is rare, but if you are, go see a doctor, get checked out, see a body worker, see a somatic therapist, meet with, some good teachers, do some yoga, get grounded, go for a swim, take a cold shower, eat some heavy vegetables like potatoes and carrots, and don't believe your thoughts if they're just racing and going crazy. Don't believe your thoughts. I received 2 emails from people who just got back from really long Vipassana retreats, and they basically got off retreat and they were losing their mind, like literally. Not in a good way, though. Oftentimes if we go on retreat, we lose our mind. Our mind becomes vast and spacious and empty. But these 2 individuals were literally going into psychotic states or delusional states or just really confused states. And so if that's happening to you, get some support. Get some support. And so anyways, I just want to say hello to everyone. Hello, Adrian and Megan and Ivy, Suzanne, Brett, Mark, Jen, Timothy, David, Hello, Mr. Chad, and Michelle, and Tatiana, Shauna. Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you. I just kind of jumped into the questions because I was so overwhelmed with them this week. But I'm going to start with this one. This one is from Andrew. Hi, Craig. I'm in Myanmar right now. Just got done with a 40-day Vipassana retreat. I'm glad to have found you. Schedule an appointment with you. Okay. The retreat was beautiful and intense and exhausting. I dealt with a lot of fear, and near the end had some very strong Kundalini experiences, which brought both bliss and paranoia. I'm calming down a bit since I left the retreat a few days ago, but still a bit shaky and feeling that I just have to get used to the way I'm feeling and adjust. So Andrew, he goes on a little bit, but he's having his body's shaking a little bit and having some kriyas and this and that. And so Andrew, I encourage you just to do whatever you need to do to self-soothe the body, to help the body to relax. Shaking is not necessarily a bad thing. When mammals have overwhelming emotion in their body and they release that emotion, the mammal body is designed to shake. And so the more you can breathe deeply and let yourself shake, the more quickly your body will calm down. When your subtle energetic nervous system is calm, when your egoic nervous system is calm, then the Kundalini can flow through you fluidly. And so, Andrew, I'll say this to you and the 10 other people I got emails from with all kinds of crazy symptoms of spiritual awakening. Self-soothe. Relax your body. Relax your body. Help your body to find peace again. Trust. Trust in your experience. Feel your feet on the ground and trust. Deep, full belly breaths. My body, I used to go into seizures because my awakening was so intense. And I would lay there and breathe and shake and tremble all over the floor. And just breathe. And just breathe. Sometimes I'd watch the clouds float by. And just breathe. Just breathe. And for those of you who do not have these types of experiences, don't worry about it. Don't even think about it. Don't let your mind get into a crazy place by thinking about all these crazy things Craig is talking about. And if your awakening is very quiet and simple, just let go into that. Just let go into that. And so, the next question is from my good friend Adrian, representing the iron workers of New York City. I have great respect for my good friend Adrian. He's a big, tough guy. He's also had a real powerful awakening, really dramatic. He says, Craig, I wanted to reach out and ask you for a bit of direction. I'm really struggling. A lot of negative energy rolling through my system currently. Feels like heightened anxiety with multiple different storylines persisting from ego. I haven't experienced this energy to this degree in quite some time. It's confusing and seems like really hard work. I'm having a problem with meditation and the motivation to sit on a daily basis. I feel like old negative behavioral patterns have reappeared, which is disappointing. I can feel like it's going backwards. Part of me has a screw it attitude, and I know that's not the way to go. I feel stuck at times, though I've made serious progress. What should I do when I'm caught in the midst of these energy storms? Well, Adrian, you said it clearly. These are energy storms. All storms have a beginning and an end. All phenomenal like phenomena, that stuff that kind of comes into our mind, comes into our experience, will come and go in the light of awareness. Some phenomena is pleasant and blissful. Some is really intense and heavy and painful. And so I encourage you to reconnect with your heart, Adrian. You have a big and beautiful heart. And I trust you fully that you know what I'm speaking about. Connect with your innate goodness. Your innate goodness is always present. Your innate goodness is the very thing within you that is able to see clearly, oh, there's a negative storm of emotion moving through my body. If you were completely lost, you wouldn't be able to see this storm. But there's a quiet presence within you which notices this storm, which notices that you've lost your motivation, that notices that part of you doesn't want to meditate. So instead of focusing on the negative energies, I'm going to invite you to focus on that which is good about you. So to turn awareness, literally, instead of awareness being looking out, and by looking out, I mean looking out at your experience of this negative storm and this pain and the heaviness, I'm going to invite you to allow awareness to turn inward to this quiet, awake, aware presence, which you are, which I love. Adrian, I've met with you many, many times. And oftentimes we've come up against this really intense feelings and pain. But always, each time we meet, I see this silent beauty and strength about you. I'm going to encourage you to reconnect with this. So instead of, sometimes when we're in these storms, we just pay attention to all the contents of the storm. But what I'm going to invite you to do is allow awareness to turn upon itself, to see that which is looking, to see that which is innocent, to see that which is not negative, which is not negative. To let go into this. You're a beautiful man, Adrian. Reconnect with your truth, my friend. And from this place of truth, once you get in contact with what you are, then I encourage you not to judge the negativity, but to be kind and loving with it. Be gentle with yourself and the part of you that doesn't want to meditate or feels like it's lost its motivation. Be kind to yourself, understanding and compassionate. Being human is quite difficult. Most of us are realizing. This was literally the Buddha's first teaching. Life is difficult. Life is dukkha. And so we can, sometimes if we just admit this out loud, like life is hard, period. Don't go on and explain to yourself why life is so hard. But sometimes it's just good to just say like, gosh, life is hard. It's hard. And I was on my roof this afternoon shoveling some snow, trying to get rid of the ice dams that I have in the valleys of my roof. And the snow was really wet and heavy, and it had been a long day, a long weekend of shoveling and just, running around chasing my 4-year-old. And my body was complaining, and I just smiled and admitted, yeah, life is hard. Life is hard. And I felt just this absolute beauty all around me. I saw the swaying of the giant ponderosa trees. Saw the blueness of the sky. I felt the hugeness of the space in my mind. So sometimes when we just accept, like admit, acknowledge, accept the difficulty of life, then we can just put it down and just allow our mind to explode open into the absolute beauty that's here. Absolute beauty. And so, let's see what we have here. This one's from Lisa. She says, Craig, I've been drawn to meditate and sometimes I just can't seem to stop. Even in sleep, I dream I'm meditating or listening to my teachers. Beautiful. I'm allowing it as much as possible, but I feel a bit guilty about life's other duties. Oh, Lisa, please don't worry about life. It'll all take care of itself. And I don't understand all the meditating inside my dreams. Thank you. Yeah, Lisa, this happened to me many years ago. When you commit yourself to the path, sometimes there's just something that opens up within you. And all you want to do is sit in meditation. So give yourself to it. And if meditation is invading your dream world, this is a very good sign. There's many nights where I would go and visit my teachers in the dream realms. Sometimes my teacher David would say, Craig, you keep visiting me in the dream world. And I'd say, yes, I do. I can't get enough of you. And so I encourage you to give yourself to this, Lisa. There's no reason to feel guilty. You can, we all have a to-do list. There's always, more cleaning we can do and busying and taking care of this and that. But when this fire starts to light up in your heart, give yourself to it. Give yourself to it. Chad, who's with us this evening, he had the same thing happen with him. He just felt this deep desire to go on retreat, and then he just kept going and kept going and kept going. He's nurturing something very deep and profound within his heart. I encourage you, Lisa, if this fire is starting to awaken within you, then give yourself to it. Eventually what we want to do is we want to keep throwing logs on this fire so that we have a bonfire of love, of truth, of emptiness, of freedom. If we don't continually throw logs onto that fire, we might go on a retreat or two and then come back home and just get lost. Lost in emotion, lost in pain, lost in this or that. But I encourage you, jump in. That's what I did. I never looked back. I just kept giving myself more and more and more to this movement. Eventually true spiritual awakening is about being a slave to the Dharma, being a slave to truth, a slave to God. And so just let go into this. The beautiful thing is if you let go into this continually, what you'll find is, later on, if you find yourself up against something really intense or painful or difficult, you'll have all this spiritual energy and power behind you. And you'll be able to work with the difficulty, with a greater sense of equanimity. Where the ego won't be able to envelop you. And so this is good. This is good. Okay, so here, Vishal, are you still here? Yeah. Let's, do you have a question? Yeah, let me see if I can release the mic to you, if that's possible here. Can we hear you, Vishal?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, awesome. Been a while, Craig. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm wonderful, thanks. It's good to see you.
You too, you too. Yeah, lately I've been feeling kind of this fire in the chest and a little bit of a, how do you say? Yeah, a bit of a knot there, and also kind of the same thing happening around the throat and like base of the skull area. And I was looking up, like they're called the Vishnu Granthi and the Rudra Granthi. I don't know if you're familiar with those terms, but I feel like that might be what these are, and I don't know. If so, like, how do you go about, say, unraveling them?
Yeah. So tell me again clearly. You said you feel like a fire and a heat in your heart.
Yeah, and it's just kind of stuck. It's almost like there's a solid, like, there's just something kind of like keeping it from moving upwards, you know. But sometimes it does unlock, and then it kind of gets trapped, kind of at the base of the skull as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, and they're not like, I'm not, you know, it's not my first rodeo at this point, so you know, they're not freaking me out or anything. But I'm just noticing, you know, a lot of the energies and the occasional kind of psychological things that come up as well. But yeah, I was just wondering if I can get some guidance on that, how to work with them, loosen them up, unravel them.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. Let me see. And everyone can still hear me, correct?
I can.
Okay, good. Yeah. And so, you know, so often when we have a lot of heat in the heart, that's a good sign. That means, you know, that there's a fire there, and it's burning up some old karma, some energetic resistance. Do you feel any? Is there any emotions that are coming with it, Vishal?
Yeah, sometimes there's a sadness, but honestly, like more often, and I'm welcoming it, but it's actually a lot of bliss and joy, and it's very sweet.
Yeah.
You know, when it's not heat, you know.
Yeah, and so heat is absolutely normal. You know, when Kundalini wakes up, I mean, one of the qualities of it is heat. I mean, basically, Kundalini is nothing but light, and light can manifest as heat, and the heat is just a purification process. And so, you know, if you're feeling sadness, I encourage you to allow the sadness to come fully. And, you know, the more you're willing to have this attitude of, I'm here, I'm willing, I'm surrendered, I'm open to whatever it is that's here, what you'll find is you will be left with the experience of bliss. With bliss. Now, part of the process, like you said, it starts to move up. Oftentimes, as it gets into the neck and the throat area, you know, like between the, you know, the upper chest and almost like the jaw, you know, oftentimes there's an aspect of self called the superego. And the superego contains judgment. You know, it tends to be like the place where we restrict or grip or judge ourself and our experience. It's also a place where we try to control, especially overwhelming experiences. And so some of that energy can get a little bit congested, whether it's in the front in the jaw or in the back of the skull. And so again, the more relaxed you can be and open, the better. The better. Part of the experience of Kundalini awakening is, how should I say this, is admitting and acknowledging it's a process. It takes time. And the body, I mean, basically your subtle energetic body is waking up. And that takes time. You know, it's almost like it takes some reprogramming. It has to get accustomed to having a tremendous amount of divine energy pouring through your nervous system. And so, you know, you may feel heat in the beginning, but as you just let go and let the process unravel, you know, eventually what you'll find is you'll just experience this brilliance there that will feel either subtly blissful. Sometimes euphorically or overwhelmingly blissful, also spacious, and of course brilliant. And so again, just your job is just to breathe and to let go. And I would encourage you just to, just to inquire into, in my experience right now, is the energy flowing, and does this just feel like a natural movement of evolution? Like evolution takes time, like the purification takes time, the transformation takes time. Or does it feel as if there's something within me resisting the process? And normally, with the heart, a good question to sit with is there something I'm afraid to feel, afraid to acknowledge? And if so, bring awareness there and bring, a lot of compassion there and acknowledgement. That's, especially in the heart. And in the back of the skull, or, like this whole, throat chakra area, a good question is there anything I'm judging? Is there any way I'm restricting? And sometimes we might judge our experience, or we resist our spiritual experience. But oftentimes, if we have something going on in our relationships, and we are really judgmental of someone, or we're judgmental of friends or family, if we're judgmental of anything in life, it just creates this contraction, especially in the skull and the throat area, and that will slow the process. Now, the Kundalini, if you keep surrendering, and if you, go forward with this attitude of humility, eventually it will work itself through. But of course, you can always ask, is there any way where I'm controlling, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, anywhere I'm judging consciously or unconsciously? Is there anything I'm fighting with in life? And so these are good questions. And if the answer is no, then, sometimes we just play the patience game. You just sit and you just open and you let it unravel. And, again, some of this is just going to take some time. Was that helpful?
Yeah, it was very helpful. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, I feel like it's just not moving as quickly as I'd like it to. I think that's a more accurate assessment.
Okay, good. And I like that you say that, because one of the things that happens through the process of spiritual awakening, and whether it's Kundalini awakening or just like a normal non-dual awakening, is oftentimes we come up against this thought, it's not happening as quickly as I would like it to. I'm going to encourage you to surrender that also. There's human time, like egoic time, like I want this and I want it to happen this way. And then there's God's time, and this took me many, many years to realize, because I really was put through the ringer with my awakening, and I ended up so broke and impoverished, and I couldn't work. I was really strung out. And I kept thinking, oh my God, like this just I have to get through this, because, or I'm going to end up homeless. It got like that silly for me. But it was like finally when I was just like, whatever it takes, whatever it takes, your time, Lord. And then this very funny thing began to actually shift, is my relationship with time began to become quite bizarre, where like my past fell away, like the experience of like time being like really slow, and like that just disappeared. And then I was just left with this state of eternity. And it's a really interesting way to live, to always be in the present moment. It's a really interesting way to live. It's very difficult to describe. But that's one of the things that's happening, is you'll find this like whole restructuring of your mind and your sense of self and what even time is. And you start moving into a place where time doesn't exist. But see, it's this very thought that I want it to go quicker. That's what this experience of Kundalini is going to burn out of you. And then eventually, time becomes really weird. It's like, because I live in a house with other people who respect time, and I drive my wife crazy because, my sense of time and her sense of time, and my past and her past, she'll say, "You said this, Craig," and it's like, gosh, I just don't remember saying that. I don't remember having that discussion. I don't remember, meeting that person. I don't remember doing this or that. Like, it's just like it falls away, and there's just this moment. And when there's just this moment, it's very difficult to be judgmental or to be thinking about being somewhere different. It's almost like the possibility of being anywhere different than right here dissolves. There's all these people that talk about like coming into the present moment, and to me, the present moment is me. The present moment is us. It's everything. How could we ever be outside of it? And that's one of the things that begins to dissolve, as you let go more fully into your experience. And so I'm going to leave you with that, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. It's so good to see you. It's been a while, huh?
Yeah. And also, I just wanted to say your video series on chakras with soulful toes have been very helpful as well. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, I really enjoyed those. I had a really nice time meeting with her, and that kind of goes back to what I was speaking about in the beginning. It is so important for us, to get to know all of the fullness of what we are. If we have no awareness of what our heart is, or what our solar, what we are in our solar plexus, or in our hara, or in our pelvis, that means we have a door that's closed to an aspect of our divinity. And I was with a teacher for 20 years who he took the time and walked me through each chakra center, and by that I mean, we would spend 6 months or a year just investigating one center, getting to know what we are in the deepest and most profound way. And what I'm finding more and more is people in modern day spirituality, they're not doing that. They may wake up to vast spacious emptiness, but they may have no idea what their heart is, or what the experience of the hara is. And you miss out on this hugeness of what you are. And so Vishal, it's an incredible gift that this awakening is happening within you. When Kundalini rises and it starts to bring all these things into our consciousness, you're forced to get to know what you are. But it's a good thing. It may seem like a really intense thing, but it's a beautiful thing. It's like the intelligence of God, the teacher, the grand teacher of them all, coming forward and showing you, hey, you need to open here. You need to relax here. You need to get to know what the truth of you is in the depth of your being. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I have probably like another 10 questions, and I think I only have 10 minutes, so I'm going to do my best here. We'll see. So anyone, if I miss your question, just email me again. This is a great question from Aaron. He wrote me a really long email. He says, Craig, sometimes I'm confused about the whole thing about listening to your heart. It hasn't always been this way, but these days these days, if I have to make a decision or something, when I go into my heart, I almost always just find a kind of cosmic indifference. It's like both a giggle and a motherly embrace, just acceptance, forgiveness, all-inclusivity. It really doesn't matter one way or the other what happens. It's so impersonal. And so, yes, Aaron, so this could be true. This could be true if the thing you need to make a decision about is no big deal. You know, should I watch this movie or that movie? You know, sometimes your heart's just like, yeah, whatever. Like, watch either. It doesn't make a difference. Should I go this way or that way? It may not make a difference. But there are things in life which make a radical difference. And so I invite you to notice, when does your heart light up? When does it come alive and scream yes? Or just give you a powerful and silent yes? You need to be able to discern this. There's a stage on the path that we go through when the heart is just emptying out, and the emotional nature is just emptying out, where what your heart is just trying to show you is, it's all okay. It is good. Life is eternal. Don't worry about anything. So the small egoic details and the small egoic decisions don't really matter so much. So sometimes our heart will just speak to us in this way. You know, I can remember I spent about a year like this. I was completely indifferent. I didn't really, have a thought this way or that way. And so that was my heart showing me one thing. But later on in life, as I began to live more and just progress further on the path, I realize now my heart is crystal clear. If I take one step off the path, it doesn't give me, an indifferent response. It gives me a really big no. Don't do that. Don't go there. And if I don't listen, I normally find myself creating some type of karma or being involved in some kind of drama, or maybe I just stub my toe or whatever it is, or, my belly gets upset or this or that. And so I am going to invite you just to continue to open up to this experience in your heart and see, what is your heart trying to show you. Maybe it is just showing you cosmic indifference in this moment, and it may show you this for a day, a month, a year. But I assure you, my friend, that your heart will speak to you clearly if you learn to listen. Sometimes the cosmic indifference is just to help allow all the egoic heart just to kind of burn up. And then once that egoic heart is burnt up, in the light of your own brilliance, in the light of awareness, you'll discover a true heart that wants to live here on planet Earth, that has an intelligence. The Buddha called it prajna. It's profound intelligence moving through you. Eventually what you find is the mind eventually dissolves, and this is for you too, Vishals. Eventually the mind dissolves. Instead of having a bunch of different characters in your head, you only have one voice in your head. One voice. Not 5 or 6 competing voices, but one voice. And so this is a great question. And so so the general teaching, Aaron, is you listen. His question is where do you act from, or do you not act at all? You listen to the movement of your heart. If your heart says nothing, do nothing. If you need to make a decision, be wise. Be wise. But I encourage you to whatever true decision is before you, just hold it up and just ask your heart, what's true? If it says nothing, don't worry about it. Do what's wise. But I encourage you to listen more deeply and fully than perhaps you had in the past. See if there's anything in the way. See if you're being aloof and kind of spaced out and have your consciousness up here, not actually in your heart. That's another common thing. A lot of times when we're up here, we'll feel cosmic indifference and aloofness. Sometimes we can feel that in our heart too, but more often than not, the further you walk, if you deepen this relationship with your heart, you'll find that your heart is you. Is you. Your heart is God. And it's speaking through you. And so good. Okay, next Aaron asks a question about cities. Do I need to worry about cities? But Aaron's speaking about cities like Reiki and healing work, shamanism, or other creative expressions of divine energy, like playing music. And so these are not cities, Aaron. So don't worry about cities. Cities are like special powers, like psychic powers and this type of thing. So don't worry about that. If you want to study Reiki, study Reiki. If your heart is moved to do healing work, do healing work. If your heart is moved to make a garden, like me, make a garden. Just don't do it in the middle of winter. And so, anyways, my friend, there's all this talk about on the spiritual path of what you should do and shouldn't do and worry about and not worry about. I'm going to encourage you to listen to your truth. Where does your heart light up? Where does it light up? If your heart says, I want to study to become a healer, you must follow that. You must follow that. If you feel just like complete deadness inside, I encourage you to look at that deadness. If it feels nihilistic, look at that nihilistic aspect. Say, is this the truth of my being? Is there something greater here? The truth of your being should be vibrant, should be alive and luminous, radiant. You feel love and bliss. And I always say, if you're not feeling these things, there's probably a heaviness on your heart that needs to be met with love. If you meet it with love, what you'll find is your heart will wake up and this greater divinity will start to move through you, act through you, live through you. This is the way forward. Okay. Let's see if I can do one more question real quick. Hi, Craig. I have a question about purification. I found that for a period of time I was arguing with the teachings and then my heart became blocked. Okay, that's good to realize that. So if you're arguing with something, your heart comes blocked. I encourage you just to look at that, to release your argument, to stick with the truth. After that, I began to allow the spontaneous kriyas to flow through because my heart was unblocked. I felt burning energy run through my body. And then my father gave me a pill because he was concerned. Okay, yes. And so after that, the burning the Kundalini stopped, and now I'm left without emotion, a blocked heart without devotion. How can I now purify my wrongdoings? My friend, it's a simple mistake. Forgive yourself. Sometimes friends and family, when they see us going through something intense, they'll say, see a doctor, take a pill, an antidepressant or whatever it is. If you look at the energetics of antidepressants, I assume that's what you took, or Valium or whatever it is, those types of pills, they deaden our energy. But what's happening in you is powerful. It's powerful. And so if you feel overwhelmed and your family's concerned and they tell you to take a medication and you do, please don't beat yourself up about it. Forgive yourself for being human. It's confusing to be human. Sometimes people around us tell us to take pills. I mean, we're in a whole culture where the whole culture tells people to take pills. I'm not a fan of medication unless, you're going through, you're having delusional thinking. You're talking to people who aren't there, and you're going a little bit nutty. Feel your feet on the ground, get grounded, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for being human. It's not a mistake. The energy will come back. Let the medication wear off, get yourself grounded, and open your heart again, my friend. You're not lost. You don't need to beat yourself up. Just keep walking forward into the truth. Into the truth. So anyways, it's good to sit with you all. I'm sorry to keep you. I'm going to do just one more question. This is from, let's see who this one's from. It says, hello, Craig. I had a Kundalini yoga practice for the past 6 months. I've experienced uncontrollable rage. It's always when I'm dealing with my partner, and it may have nothing to do with Kundalini, but I've never experienced this before. I've never been unable to control my anger. So sometimes when we have a lot of energy awaken in our body, it will flood dormant energies in our body. And so if we have anger, sadness, guilt, rage, shame, whatever it is, jealousy, the Kundalini will flood your subtle energetic body. It will also flood your egoic body. This is normal. But, I'm going to encourage you to talk with a counselor, a good body worker, relax. Don't believe your thoughts. Do whatever you can do to calm down. Be gentle and loving with yourself. In regards to your partner, bite your tongue, be kind. Going on a walk is a good thing to do. Sometimes I like to throw rocks at the sky. The sky is big enough to receive our anger, our sadness, our heartache. If you're a really skilled meditator and you're dealing with rage, you can allow yourself to be a volcano. Just imagine this energy of rage exploding through your consciousness into the hugeness of the sky. You let it all dissolve, my friend. It's a common experience. Don't take it personally, but don't take it out on your girlfriend either, because that's not fair. So not fair for her. So anyways, if I missed your question, I'm so sorry. I'll be back again next week. This satsang is supported by donation, and so if you find something of value, please support the sangha. It's very helpful in supporting these teachings so that other people can receive this dharma that you have as well, that you've benefited from. I thank you all so much. So much love to you. I have the highest respect for you all. Please visit my website if you want details for my upcoming online meditation group. So peace be with you all, and have a wonderful evening. Good night.